What were your ambition as a child, as a kid, and what you ended up actually doing?
Coming from a rural background, generally you don't start with too much high ambition.
So in your internship, what did you learn? What was, maybe one very important learning which you are still carrying today?
Be ready to pick anything that no one else is picking.
How many years it took you to become a manager?
I started my journey in 2011. 2017 was the first time when I started leading a small team at Paytm.
And do you think, good leaders are typically the ones who are able to delegate properly and who are able to get things done from their peers or from their, reportees?
I think good leaders are those who are able to maintain a very fair balance between deliberation and instinct.
What's the future? What does the future look like? AI, LLM, etc.
Look, we don't need to shy away from it. AI is reality, and each and every industry, software, design, each and every aspect of life is going to be touched by it.
Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of our podcast, Tech with Sukant. Today, I have Somesh. Somesh is VP of Engineering at Delhivery. He has been, at tech leadership role at Tokopedia before this, has worked with Paytm and done a lot of interesting stuff in the tech ecosystem. So, welcome, Somesh.
Hey Sukant, glad to be here. I think we have been interacting for over a year to make this session happen. Thank you for the invite. Finally, let's dive in.
Yes. So we are going to talk about a lot of interesting stuff, guys. We are going to talk about, how typically a public company operates, what does it take to build tech at companies like Paytm, and a lot of stuff around that. So, Somesh, you have been into this ecosystem for roughly 15 years now, right?
Close to, yeah.
Yeah. So you started your career as a software engineer, slowly and gradually climbed the tech leadership role, and now you're at Delhivery. So did you ever plan for this?
Never. And I think whatever I have become today, there are larger powers which generally drive these things.
Yes.
And maybe whatever conversation or discussion we'll double click through, everything will boil down to karmane vadikaraste and mapaleshu kalachana. So that's it. Having said that, I think there are few core fundamentals which generally when you come from a rural background and family where parents are academicians, few things are ingrained in your.
So tell us a little
DNA
bit
by
about
default.
your childhood and what were your ambition as a child, as a kid, and what you ended up actually doing.
Look, coming from a rural background, generally you don't start with too much high ambition.
Where are you from?
I'm from Azamgarh, which is hardly 100 kilometers away from Varanasi. So you always look to your elder brothers, elder sisters, what they are doing. And then my eldest brother became my role model, and my father and mother laid the foundation layer of the academic setup. He ended up doing engineering, and then he guided all other siblings to enter into academics. So that is where whole engineering and mathematics journey started flowing in the family.
Okay, and so still, what was your ambition? होता है ना, as a kid, you always write an essay on my ambition. Everybody asks, बेटा बड़ा होके क्या बनना है? So, आप क्या बोलते थे? क्या करना है मेरे को? किस चीज पर आप ऐसे लिखते थे?
I think initially it was more on cricket and sports.
Okay.
I used to represent my school cricket team at that time also.
Oh, nice.
But the journey was very different.
So very raw ambition, like most
Yeah.
of the kids, everybody wanted to
Everyone,
get into cricket.
Yeah.
Right. तो फिर ये टेक का कहाँ से आया? What was the pivotal moment or what conversation made you realize कि मेरे को software engineer बनना है?
So I think the first thing is books play a very important role.
Of course.
I have, and those books are still stacked in my house, which were used for preparation by my eldest brother. And from there on, you start picking up, okay, these are some of the streams which you can opt for. And that is where all the, not software engineering per se, but mathematics and computer science as a fundamental was being thrown to us in subtle ways to learn the nitty-gritties. and then being good in academics, you generally then transition into the GE and EAEE arena. So I am an triple IT Jabalpur alumnus. The institution was also building from a very nascent age. It was a 2008 established
Right.
institution. So that itself is also a very interesting journey, being part of an institution where you are seeing the bricks being laid in front of your eyes, and at the same time you are going into
Hmm.
the institution also. I think those fundamentals and entering into the third year, where it was the first time the institution incorporated BTP project or an internship for 6 months somewhere outside. Initially, we were very resistant to it, but I think that internship of 6 months in Bangalore laid the first and prime foundation for my software engineering discourse in future. Fantastic three founders of the startup. The way they mentored the kid of 2011, I think those fundamentals are still ingrained today. It is always about having very positive intent towards the problem. It is always
So,
about
yeah.
a lot of basic fundamental integrities to focus rather than looking at the larger picture right from a front.
Um, so in your internship, what did you learn? What was, maybe one very important learning which you are still carrying today?
Be ready to pick anything that no one else is picking. And maybe the better way to put it is, something is someone else's problem only as long as you think it is.
Hmm.
So get your hands dirty in each and every problem. And I do it even today. Don't shy away that this is a smaller problem or this is a bigger problem. Each and every problem has its own impact on the end user for which you are
Right.
solving the problem. So that is the
Yeah.
core of each and every IC role or managerial role as well.
But why are so many folks, they are too reluctant to pick up anything new? They are too reluctant to try anything new. For them, it's more like, it's not my job. Why should I do it?
Uh, Look, change inherently is very resistive by nature.
Hmm.
There will always be some inertia around what I have been doing versus what new things are coming up in market or in terms of the organization or team changes, as simple as that.
See,
But
I'm sure you have worked with so many engineers, a lot of good engineers, right? A lot of very talented folks. So, what's the very core difference between these two people? People who are quite willing to, take up any new assignment, take up any new skill sets, any new project, versus someone who is very reluctant to do anything new or something which is not part of their KRA.
so, uh, if I have to simplify
Yeah.
this engineering persona, there are one set of engineers who are always the challenger ones,
Hmm.
and then there are one set of engineers who are always the achiever ones,
Hmm.
and then the third set of engineers are who are the BAU or the task
Right.
driver ones. I think the way to segregate them is the challenger ones will always raise his or her hand to solve certain problem rather than
Hmm.
you delegating XYZ problem to that person. And these kind of people surface up automatically in the organization by looking at the problem that the leader is solving.
Right.
Other two classification of engineers, they are mostly solving the BAU problems. That is also equally important because eventually the way I structure the organizations that I drive is they are predominantly a three-phase setup
Yes.
where some people are very well focused on what is happening today. Then the next layer is focused on what's there and what are the tech debts, what are the new
Hmm.
business dimensions which are opening up. And then the third phase is predominantly looking into future. So all those three compartments are equally important to run the organization. But what these people who are generally the one who grow faster in any
Yeah.
organization are the one who raise their hand for each and every problem. They
Hmm.
have extremely solid intent and attitude towards the problem set that they are taking up, towards the organization that where they are working on. And the mojo for these guys is whenever they pick a problem, it is not that they try to always kick the can down the line, but they solve it end to end.
Hmm.
And that has been the outstanding factor for these guys so far.
You're right. How many years it took you to become a manager?
uh,
And what was the role
I think
from where you
I
transitioned?
started my journey in 2011. 2017 was the first time when I started leading a small team at Paytm. So close to 6 years.
And what was the transition from which role to what role?
From a software engineer role to a technical lead role. And to be honest, initially I did not even realize the difference between these two.
Mm.
It was just that, hey, on one fine day, this is the new responsibility. You take it up because you are doing already
Mhm.
better in the previous role.
And
That's
what are some good shockers which you observed once you transitioned to that role?
I would not say shocker. That was a realization upfront that getting things done from someone else is relatively much more harder and energy taking job than
Tell
doing
me
things
about
on
this.
your own self. So at times you literally think that I should have done it.
Right.
But as you grow up in the ladder, that is where the mentoring of seniors comes in picture, that it is important to get
Right.
things done by someone else so that you are able to use the leverage of the team. Otherwise
Yes.
you will always become the bottleneck.
Yes. And I've also seen a lot of young managers. What happens is, they are so frustrated not being able to get things done by their peers. They end up doing everything themselves.
By
And
peers or by their
by
subordinates?
themselves, by doing it on their own. It's because they think maybe that is faster. I have to brief someone, I have to do something else, I have to talk to so many people. I'll just do it myself.
So I don't think this is a better or best practice to
Of
do it
course.
consistently,
Mm.
because then eventually what I'm trying to create is I'm trying to create a dependency on myself.
Mm.
The better leaders, at least which I have seen thriving or from whom I have learned, they always try to make themselves redundant and they always
Mm.
try to create the next layer by giving right set of problems. Of course, there could be instances where the next layer is not able to solve certain problems. At that time, it is significantly important to get your hands dirty and enter into the
Yeah.
problem statement, slice and dice. The important part is how much help is enough help, and then
Yes.
that understanding is very important.
Hmm. Well, yeah, that is true. And do you think, good leaders are typically the ones who are able to delegate properly and who are able to get things done from their peers or from their, reportees?
I'll try to take a different approach
Hmm.
to this question. I think good leaders are those who are able to maintain a very fair balance between deliberation and instinctive thinking.
Hmm.
And from these two, the delegation and hands-on role comes into picture. It is important to delegate, but if I am delegating each and every task every time, then there is a possibility that someone else is overburdened. So we have to
Yes.
do right problem slicing and dicing to understand. And first, the leader's role is to refine the problem by using the deliberation and instinctive thinking process,
Hmm.
and then only delegate rather than throwing under the bus for each and everything.
Yes.
So that's very important, and that is what I think uh, I prefer doing each and every time.
Hmm. So let's talk a little bit about these different journeys in the overall life cycle of a company. 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and 10 to 100. And I think you have been part of all these journeys,
Yeah,
right? At Paytm, then Tokopedia, and now at Delivery. Can you quickly, kind of differentiate what these three journeys actually look like and how different are they?
they are extremely different from each other. When you are in, and we are talking about any spectrum of 0 to 10, where
Yes.
0 to 1 is predominantly the MVP phase, where
Hmm.
you are testing the surface, testing the market. Here, the way to approach, at least for the engineering team, is get things done as soon as possible, because we have to understand that your CEO or the business leader is trying to acquire a market where there are only too many competitors. So this is where the tech leader has to partner very well with the business and leadership to make sure that we are very quick into the market. Now,
Hmm.
from 1 to 5 is a very different journey. Your product fit is there in the market. Now it is more about expansion and more acquisition into the market share. So there now your design has to change dramatically. Initially, you were on a MVP and dirty phase of
Yes.
setup. The important thing is to learn and realize when to scrap that and design it for the next level of growth. So this transition is very hard, because what generally happens is, if an engineer has developed the MVP, generally engineers are not able to dissociate themselves from the
Hmm.
initial set of code that they have written, and they again implement the same paradigm in the 1 to 5 journey also.
Yes.
And this then leads to larger scale problems.
Well, I think that bias, that baggage remains.
That baggage remains, and
Yeah.
humans are by default emotional, so
Yes.
that baggage always is there. So, and then this is where it is important to put some right structure in the organization also. Here, everyone is a solo rider. Everyone is fighting their own battle.
Yes.
Here, we need to fight a cohesive war rather than individual battles. So that is a predominant difference between these two. 5 to 10, here I think we can touch base a bit on companies going public also.
Yeah.
So I've been part of two organizations, Paytm and Tokopedia. Paytm went public later on, and Tokopedia was part of. So Tokopedia, I spent the largest span of my career and very fortunate journey, where I was part of 0 to 1, 1 to 5, and then 5 to 10 journey. Initially, we build almost everything to first make it work, acquire more and more users, address more and more market. But when the listing process starts, there are a lot of regulatory compliances that need to be met. In fact, I think India and RBI predominantly on the financial sector is doing fairly well by enforcing more and more of DPDPA, which just became act last week. So India is also going to see a very different trajectory there.
Yeah.
Coming back to Tokopedia days, initially we build almost everything so that we have more and more user engagement in the system. In order to become public, there are compliances of confidential information, there are compliances of PII data, ISO certifications. So imagine each of the columns that you have in table are able to pinpoint a particular user. Now you have to duplicate each and every column at a scale of 10 million monthly active users. That itself is a very different problem. So you have to be very clinical in terms of taking an approach to make it regulatory compliant. So this is a reactive approach, and to be honest, no one plans for these.
Right.
You first try to do your 0 to 1, 1 to 5, and then you enter into this setup. And it's totally okay. There is absolutely nothing wrong in it. Now, when we have already reached a state and we have become a listed company, the security principles has to be the DNA of your design first itself, instead of again making it a reactive problem. So there the thought process is very different. Having built those softwares and then converting them into a compliant software, that itself is a very different journey. Now, when leading a public tech organization where the systems are already built, enforcing that design thinking process of security first principle itself is a very different skill set that requires a lot of oiling and greasing in the machinery to make sure that we do not leave any cracks in the system, because we all know what the security and data leaks have created
and what the consequences are overall. Yeah. So basically, what you're trying to say is, as a public company, as you grow in that 5 to 10 wala journey, that security, those compliances, those regulatory requirements are kind of tied into the overall design from the very beginning.
Not only tight, they literally have to be airtight.
Right. What are the consequences? Certain instances.
So, for example, let's take the DPDPA. If and this is based on the act which government has notified through Gadget, is if a breach is identified, from your net income to 50 CR direct penalty. So it's like, imagine companies who are hardly doing break even. Now there is a 250 CR that has to be deductible from even your pre-break even. So that's the first financial impact is one of it. The larger dent happens on the trust side, because when the trust is lost, because now everyone knows that an organization is not able to build a secure and compliant system, that creates a very long term effect. This is a short term effect of some.
But how are these breaches identified? How do these regulators get to know that certain breaches actually happened?
So these regulators do a very frequent audits as well. One is you are getting it through some public source or media.
Right.
What the organizations do is they create a very first thing is getting these things right upfront in the design itself, and each and every data exposure always goes through certain regulatory and audit principles, and then only it goes into implementation. The second one is there is a whole setup of security team. There is a setup of audit team which keeps on monitoring and keeps on also
But as long
assessing the
as you are
demand.
getting it informed or getting those breaches identified by your internal team, it doesn't go public. There is no harm, right? As long as you are able to fix it before the impact is
I mean, I will
created.
not put it as a harm per se, because we are able to identify it, but
Hmm.
it is important to identify it when the first footprint itself has
Yes.
happened, rather than identifying it very late.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
those are the principles which we need to put in the organization and design,
Hmm.
so that it's not too late for these things.
And also, talking about PII, so I have seen a lot of companies who talk about that PII is encrypted, etc., etc. But actually, they are not. Most of the PIIs, in fact, if we look at, there are a lot of breaches that has happened. Very big costs and publicly listed. Still, when that breach happened into the database and stuff, an entire PIA was kind of exposed and was being sold on the dark net and stuff.
So you have a secondary set of information which is blank information, and then you have an encrypted information. I think those things have to change,
Hmm.
and GDPR regulations are already very stringent on it. With DPDP, I think Indian ecosystem is also going to change a lot.
Yeah.
Let's look at the hindsight of why these organizations end up storing those secondary set of information. Also, is uh, these information are used to train certain models. These information are used
Yes.
to
Yes.
shape certain consumer behavior for future. That has been the business model so far, but with all these regulations becoming more and more stringent,
But
I
I
think the
don't think I
organizations
don't
will
think you
change.
need PII data for to train your models, or do you?
PI, to identify the end user, yes,
Yes, for
but
that lineage.
not for
That
the behavior
yes,
shaping
yes,
purpose. No,
yes,
no,
yeah.
because when we are training the model, eventually there is a purpose associated with
But
it.
can't this be done also by creating a one-way encryption of those PII data and rather than keeping it as a blank
But uh,
text?
so we need to look at the end result also. We
Yeah.
are doing some activity
Hmm.
in order to target certain end users, right? So when we have to segment those end users, I need to know how to identify those users so that I
Right.
can communicate them, right? So that is where I think one-way encryption will not work.
So tell me one thing. So WhatsApp, kind of says that entire communication is end-to-end encrypted. Whatever
Encrypted,
we are
yeah,
talking to, is
yeah,
completely end-to-end encrypted. And I am assuming that the PII is also end-to-end encrypted. At least what is being claimed,
yeah.
right? So how do you think that works?
So what it actually means is when the data is being transferred on the network layer, there you are not seeing a plain text.
Hmm.
But wherever the data is injected into the system, or wherever the data is retrieved on the surface, that is where the actual translation happens.
Hmm.
In the network, it should never travel as a plain text.
I have also seen, not recently, as a logistics company. So what I observed was, whenever a shipment used to come to me, and I think the delivery person have my PII, right? They know my address, they know my name, they know my email, phone number, everything. And in next couple of days, I would get a call or something, and that fraud scam was running in India that ran in India for a very long time. They will call you, and they will call you with very specific details. You have purchased this, you have done this, iski service le lo, या फिर something around, या फिर the shipment is stuck, इसके against you are getting some kind of, some bonus coupon or something, and they'll ask you, and they have scammed a lot of people by taking those UPI scanners and taking money from those guys.
Especially those custom calls.
Those custom calls, though, these guys are quite infamous.
Yeah.
They will digitally arrest you, and
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who have lost maybe lakhs of rupees in just one single call.
So each and every logistics organization put a lot of effort in making sure that these kind of breaches do not happen. Uh, the address typically is printed on the package. If you
Hmm.
look at the print paper also, that print is vanishable within certain duration of days, but it has to be there as long as the shipment is not delivered to
Yes,
the end
right.
user. Right? Then the second part is when these data fiduciaries are interacting and getting exposing
Mm-hmm.
these information of data principles on the apps, for example, the rider which you mentioned. So there also the organizations are doing a lot of runtime encryptions to make sure that this information is not handy or stored eventually in the rider's end user device.
Right.
Yeah, so those level of security and scrutiny is already there in place. The wherever leaks are happening, I think that is totally inappropriate. And the way to address this is, again, we cannot move away with the hard printing of labels for the shipment because it has to travel in the network.
Of course. And see,
But
this operates as a modus operandi for these
yeah,
guys, right? It's not something, and these are typically huge scams that people or these folks are running. But yeah, so it's quite, what I'm trying to understand is, key as a logistics company, or let's look at the entire ecosystem, right? How can you control this when you have so many delivery folks? There are so many people. Obviously, there are so many touch points. You can't reduce all those touch points.
yeah.
And so many people are involved, right? So how do you, kind of, you people don't even need to go to a database, right? If somebody can crack into that particular network, right? So the entire data is already there. Most of the data is already there.
No, but network eventually will be probing some database to provide that set of information, right?
No, network, I mean the human network,
Human network.
right?
So one is that whenever these employees onboard us, and we have to understand that these set of employees are not very sophisticated or educated employees.
Mm.
So it is very important to make them aware and train them also,
Right.
and give them first-hand information of do's and don'ts.
Mm.
And I think the logistics industry runs a significant amount of academic programs to make sure that this awareness
Yeah.
is still there. The second part is wherever the physical footprints are there, there is time for survival to it, time to live for it,
Yes.
so that it is destroyable. For example, the prints which I was
Mm-hmm.
talking about. The third part is towards the handshakes that is happening for the packages. It may
Yeah.
happen, for example, uh,
I think it has.
there is a dedicated
Yeah.
rider who is carrying the shipment on ground, but someone else is also partnering to it. So that is where a lot of uh, KYC happens for these kind of employees also, so that at least I as a system and I as a partner know that who is
Yeah.
carrying my shipment on ground. So as long as we are able to trace it and we are able
Mm.
to pinpoint that where what has happened, and on top of that the first layer becomes the full-fledged awareness and
Right.
training program, I
I
think
think
we
people
will
don't
do
care
fairly
as
well.
long as it doesn't have a very negative impact, right? So I have also seen, a lot of instances jahan pe, let's say, if a certain shipment is being, let's say, an AC is getting delivered, or a water purifier is getting delivered, right? So, and see, these guys are not paid too much, obviously. So, getting the data and information with few certain pennies, and we know that data is being sold in India, left, right, and center, right? It's very easy to get any data from anyone in India. In fact, there was a scam, running uh, in Delhi, from where the bank staff would give the details of all the account holders in that branch with their account balance, and then scammers would target those particular customers जहाँ पे दोनों दे नो कि यार इस बंदे का 5 लाख 6 लाख के ऊपर का सेविंग है जहाँ से वो पैसे निकाल सकते हैं. So despite what I'm trying to say is कि I think there are a lot of things which cannot be solved through tech, right? यहाँ पर you can't do anything around tech. You can probably uh, there are so many restrictions already, right? You cannot send email, you cannot send a document, but you can click a picture on your computer screen.
Yeah.
And that's what
So
these people are actually doing.
there will be some tangential factors to it,
Yeah.
and this is where I think the onboarding process and the awareness process
Mm.
becomes significantly paramount, so that these kind of leaks do not happen. The banking case which you are talking about, systems, I think banking sector is one of the most
Yeah.
data compliant sector, but eventually the person ended up leaking that
Yes.
information. So this is where the awareness and consequences approach, the maker and checker approach, makes the
Mm.
system much more reliable.
Yeah, right, right. No, that is quite interesting actually. So delivery, kind of positions itself as as one of the first, logistics company which is completely technically driven, tech driven.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
So right from the moment shipment enters into network until the moment a shipment exits our network, for each and every shipment there is close to 50 to 60 events that gets produced in its life
Hmm.
journey. And that's our core USP and our data proprietary platform, where at any moment of time I will be able to pinpoint where my shipment is.
Hmm.
And that is what then translates into a pure tech enabled and end-to-end integrated logistics system. This is more towards the digital footprint. Each and every hub and facility, if you get some opportunity to visit, there are end-to-end automated sorters placed, so that any shipment that is inbound into one facility can reach the outbound facility without any manual intervention. So this is hardware level of tech enablement, and this is
Hmm.
the digital level of tech enablement, which is allowing us to deliver close to 100 million shipments every month now.
You're right. So, but in terms of operational efficiency, in terms of revenue efficiency, how does it impact, your operational efficiency or revenue efficiency compared to some very conventional logistics platform?
I think it eventually boils down to the unit economics that we
Hmm.
look at. Uh, I won't be able to share the exact numbers,
Yeah.
but the way we design these systems also, uh, on the tech side, look, the ideal system is you do everything microservice and then
Yes.
you keep on scaling and vertically. And over 15 years of career, I never vouch for and never have seen a system which is designed purely on microservice. It's always a mix of monolith and
Obviously.
microservice.
Right.
So that is the approach we take, and we look at certain unit economics both on the tech cost and the infra cost, and total volume that gets injected into the network and volume that exits the network. And based on
Hmm.
these things, the last mile, mid mile, and first mile operational efficiencies are defined. And each and every team is each and every day very into the details of each and every cost that they incur. Uh, Being into an operations business, by default you start creating that lens of scrutinizing each and every cost that is leaking through the system. And
Yeah.
as long as you are able to curtail it and put that penny back into the ecosystem, I think the win-win is for the
Hmm.
overall organization and the end value that we end up delivering to our clients.
Right. So, what you're trying to say is, being a tech company, from the unit economics perspective, you guys are able to make more money per shipment compared to the competitors.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. On the AI front, right? Overall, I think a lot of it's changing almost every day. Abhi Gemini 3 came in couple of 2 days
Two
back,
days back.
right? So, how is this impacting overall, product development and team culture, efficiencies, etc.?
I think we have to look at the end-to-end
Hmm.
SDLC rather than only looking at the outcome side, and that is where majority of the buzz is there in the market. Uh, and this is something based on my own hands-on experience and what my team does. We have to be very selective in terms of where we are trying to solve a particular problem with help of these AI-driven development tools and
Right.
AI-recommended development tools. Wherever there are microservice dependencies, uh, it is very tough to take help of AI tools to solve a particular
Hmm.
business problem. But whenever we are trying to solve certain MVP problems, or these are boilerplate standard repositories with kind of monolithic structure with 2 file, 4 file setups, I think there it is literally adding to the augmentation frontier. Now, what we need to realize is so this is the problem compartmentalization or classification. It is not that we should definitely continue to try for the larger microservice based event systems also, but uh, we have to look at the end-to-end impact. Sure, it is adding some velocity initially and increasing the productivity frontier, but if there are cases where there are certain unknown bugs introduced by these AI recommended and development tools, the time to take to fix those bugs is relatively much larger than what it would
Yes.
have happened earlier. And there is a psychological factor also inherently involved here. When a developer is writing code by using his or her conscious mind, at the same time developer is also preparing a mental map of where what the changes have happened, right? Now that mental map and subconscious learning of that model
That
is totally
is,
gone,
yes.
and since that is gone, it has landed into a big PR and that gets reviewed. So now when it comes to a second iteration of some fixes, since this mental model is not there, it takes significant time. So if I correlate with the financial system where we talk about risk adjusted returns, this is something which we need to look at in terms of productivity by adjusting it with the time taken for bug also. So we should frame it bug adjusted productivity rather than only AI driven productivity.
But don't you think this is also kind of, kind of making the engineers more efficient
It is,
versus
it is.
it is making them
No doubt.
efficient, but at the same point of time, they're also losing context of the bigger picture.
No doubt it is making efficient, and that is where I mentioned
Mm.
that classification of the problem is very important, that which problem you should
Yes.
solve using AI versus which you should not.
A lot of new roles are coming up, which is AI code cleaner,
Yeah.
right? Code cleaner engineer, something of that sort. I read somewhere on LinkedIn. So don't you think it's quite ironic in nature that at one place you are actually using so many AI agents and stuff like that,
And then
and
you are adding
then
an
you're
AI
using
layer too.
adding another engineer to clean up all the mess that AI is creating.
So this reminds me of the uh, database ACID consistencies
Huh.
where we had two-phase locking,
Right.
and the next level of consistency was you had three-phase locking and there was no end to it, so people
Hmm.
stuck to two-phase locking. I think that is what is going to happen here also. Uh, when we are trying to develop a larger code base through certain AI-driven tools,
Hmm.
it is imperative that someone has to review it, then only it will go
Of
to
course,
production.
right,
It cannot,
right,
we
right.
cannot ignore that cycle.
And what is happening is, that AI is making so many changes in a code base that sometimes the engineer who's committing that change, they are also not aware what actually has happened. They just know that it works, and that is quite inherent for a lot of engineers. They
Yeah.
just look at, that some command has been given, some prompt was written, something happened, they tested it, it worked, and then it goes to their managers to review that particular PR, and for them it is becoming huge hell. They really don't know how to review that code. They
Yeah.
don't even have the context.
And that is where you start sensing a snowball blindness also, and people see that okay, the test cases are there, success cases are there,
Hmm.
blindly review and ship it to production. I think there the borderline is don't ship what you don't know, as simple
Hmm.
as that.
Right.
Make sure it is very precise. It will definitely depend on the risk factor of the product for which these PRs are also developed. Probably if it is an internal tool which is not affecting any security aspect, which is not affecting any
Right.
revenue or financial aspects, probably I'll be okay to ship it and
Hmm.
not have that scrutiny lens. But wherever these kind of risk portfolios are concerned,
Right.
revenue aspects, security aspects, consumer behavior aspects, I'll definitely, at least until the current stage of all the model evolution, I'll definitely not ship products based on the AI driven development.
Hmm. So I'm sure within your team as well, a lot of engineers must be using this,
Yes.
right? So is there any kind of governance around this that can help, or certain framework that can help use it in its best potential?
So
Is there something that you guys are doing?
it does not exist in a very
Formal way? Yeah.
formal way, but what teams have started doing is they have started maintaining a repository of their own prompts, so that whenever a new business requirement is there which is highly related with the prompts which has led to certain features in production, they are able to reuse it. Now
Hmm.
the challenge there is with the pace these models are evolving, the same prompt is going to return a different result with the next model.
Correct.
And that is where these problem of moving from
even
an era
even
of
with the same model,
even
with the
even
same
with the
model,
same model.
prompt always returns different output with every time you call it, with every call,
So
because it's a probabilistic
it's a
model, right?
stochastic model. So that is the next challenge which both the product and engineering world has to evolve into, moving from a pure surjective and deterministic era to a probabilistic era where I don't have a very clear information of total set of input information to the total set of output information. So the product funnel era has to go, and this stochastic and probabilistic way of understanding the product and engineering has to evolve. Probably software 2.0, which happened after 1980s.
Right. And what about people using these AI agentic IDs like Cursor, Gemini? Recently, just day before yesterday, they launched a new ID, anti-gravity. Yeah. So, is this something that you guys restrict your engineers to do, or there is a certain set of IDs which is approved, and only that is something that they can use? Or
no, engineers should be exposed with each and every kind of tool. As
they have that flexibility to use whatever they want.
They have that flexibility, and this is where the organization should enable these engineers, because look, we are at a very early stage of this. Right? And if we start putting too many checks and balances, the curiosity and innovative approach to solve the same problem by 130 team members that I have, I'll not be able to leverage.
And I think it actually doesn't make sense, right? If something can be done in 5 minutes, why do you want someone to spend maybe 30 minutes on the same problem?
Yeah.
Right. And I think there are a lot of problems when even we write code. I think writing business logic is actually a very small part of it. Most of it is scaffolding, writing DTOs, DAOs, etc. Which is a lot of grunt work. It doesn't require that much of, what do you call it? You don't have to do. It's a grunt work basically.
True. And that is the approach which team has taken in writing all the boilerplate prompt repository also, so that the grunt work generally translates into prompt, and the business function work is what actually someone is consuming from instinctive thought process or PRD, and then translating into a code.
Right.
So that approach becomes very specific to a particular function, whereas the prompt engineering becomes a very dynamic and generic approach to solve.
How is this, use of AI agentic platforms, etc., is kind of impacting the overall sprint velocity or team performance output?
So eventually it does not. That is where I was trying to
explain. Are you guys measuring it in any way?
We are. In fact, the productivity definitely gets measured in each and every organization. That's the reality, and it should be measured. We should have that lens of understanding where the bandwidth is going, because eventually it is overall R&D and people cost to the organization. This is where I put the fundamentals of bug adjusted velocity rather than only looking at the velocity.
Yeah, obviously.
Sure, if I am building something, I am able to do the 30-minute work in 5 minutes. Our velocity is high. But if that 5-minute work has led to certain bug, now
which is taking another 1 hour.
Metrics are in different buckets, I am not able to compare it. So it is very similar to the risk adjusted return in our portfolios. All we are looking at is returns, but we are not hedging with the right risk. So we should always look at the end-to-end velocity instead of looking at only the dev velocity and ignore the other fragments.
So you haven't seen any change in terms of velocity or productivity?
Not significantly.
Okay.
For the MVPs one, yes.
Yeah.
But for the existing solid products which have multiple microservice dependencies and mesh, there I don't see.
I think what is happening is, for smaller products or smaller startups who are very young, they are able to derive more.
Fantastic for them.
They are able to derive more value because the context is not that huge.
Yes.
You don't have 100 microservices to look into.
Absolutely.
But for bigger costs like yourselves, I think it gets very difficult, because I think it's so distributed. Any AI agent or Claude, Gemini, I think nobody will be able to make sense of it, and actually, unless you're doing it in units, small units within microservices.
At times in a small units also, it has not given better result. We are only looking at the negative aspects of it. There are a lot of positive aspects which definitely is adding value to the overall software engineering paradigm. But let's say there is an Android screen. there are multiple click interaction elements on it. If you want to change something at a very particular pixel or coordinate, it may end up changing something very different and
Yeah.
you'll not realize. However, when you are painting that screen for the first time,
Hmm.
that is where it is going to do the perfect job.
Right.
So the iterations take more time rather than building it for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is true. That is true. How about on the data side? Is it impacting anything on the data side as well?
Data side,
On data engineering or data science?
data science, yes. So some of the products which we work with, and this is where the product teams are also trying to change their way of
Hmm.
working, is uh, trying to fine tune prompts by leveraging these LLM models and then embedding these prompts into a product interface. And this is where the whole new set of product dimension is coming up,
Yeah.
where initially probably the training the model based on existing data sets would have taken more time.
Hmm.
Now we are fine tuning the responses again, going to the probabilistic era, where we are refining our inputs by refining our prompts, and we are evaluating the risk and cost of apology on the output side. That is where the product evolution is also happening on the data
Hmm.
side of it.
What's the future? What does the future look like? AI, LLM, etc. People are talking about, that AGI is something that can happen very soon. What are your thoughts on this? If you have to predict what will happen 10 years down the line?
So, look, we don't need to shy away from it. AI is reality, and each and every industry, software, design, each and every aspect of life is going to be touched by it.
Right.
What we have to understand is, and I'll probably take you back to the World War One, World War Two
Hmm.
era, where we have seen those fighter jets which had those mechanical
Yeah.
uh, instruments in the cockpit. And 2014, we have altogether a very different cockpit and very different ways of running
Hmm.
these beast and machines in the sky. So the evolution of software industry in terms of 1980s era to today, 2025, is happening on the same paradigm.
Hmm.
The role is not changing, role exists. It is just that the same machine, you are able to do 25 different things in
Right.
lesser time and with more efficiency.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
in future, the marginal cost of productivity using AI is going to reduce further, and the focus will again shift back on distribution using the product experiences or problems or
Right.
value additions that get solved by. So it is the reality. It's on the engineers and probably the product and engineering side both to adopt it as soon as possible. But we have to be very rational and fair with the hedging that we are doing on the risk portfolio of the
Yeah.
product.
Hmm. Okay. And how about, with agriculture revolution, something changed. With industrial revolution, there was so much of, what do you call it? There was so much of resistance that this is actually going to take up our jobs. Now, with AI also, we are looking at very big companies, very,
Yeah,
aspirational companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, they are also uh, using AI as a reason to lay off so many people. So do you what are your thoughts? Is the layoff actually happening because of AI, or AI is just being used as a
I think
uh,
uh,
good
the
defense
the
for
best
this?
the best business in the universe is the business of fear. So that is what is happening. Uh, I think there is something larger that has happened, and it does not get discussed outside the
Hmm.
financial and accounting circle. Uh, this is what my fair understanding is, that during the first term of Trump's administration, there is Section 174 of IRS 1954, which is the Tax and Regulation Act for United States. Uh, there, certain changes have happened, predominantly two changes. One is that the R&D and people cost which these companies used to incur, now it is deductible from the net income.
Hmm.
Earlier it was deductible, and with the first term of Trump administration, now that has to be amortized over next 5 to 10 years. So imagine the dent it is creating in their bottom line year on year. The primary reason to do so was the corporate tax slab changed from 35% to 21%. So somewhere the federal income has to be hedged, and this is
Yeah.
where they hedge with it. And this is the primary reason why the layoffs are happening, and this is also augmented with some of the business portfolios which have reached their peak. For
While
example,
their revenue is actually increasing. If
yeah,
quarterly reports, if you look at it,
yes,
the revenues are actually increasing, but yeah.
revenues are increasing, but eventually, if there is a schedule in your balance sheet which has to be net deductible from your net
Mm.
income, and then now that X amount has to be amortized over 5 to 10 years, the difference in your net income is very different. And the
Mm.
second factor there is, if you dig deeper into the sectors where these layoffs are happening in these companies, these are very stable products which have reached its peak. For
Yes.
example, the Alexas and Kindles of Amazon.
Mm.
That is what my understanding is. And COVID did added a lot of bloat in each and every organization. So some cleanup based on the performance and that bloating structure is also happening. And I think nothing was better than to ride on the wave of AI and do it.
You're right. Yeah. Because again, the irony is that when companies earlier used to report layoffs, their share price would actually go down.
Go down.
Now, when they are, reporting layoffs and citing AI as a reason, their share price is going up.
But I think it changed yesterday itself. Our
Yes, because now
Nifty
people
spiked
are
down.
now people know,
Yeah,
that
they
it's just a
understand
ploy.
what's happening.
Now they are understanding. Earlier people were thinking, the company is growing, they're getting better by using AI, but now they know that is just a ploy.
Yeah. Yeah. So yesterday we saw this in the Nifty spike also. So
Yeah.
that's outrightly clear in the market.
Hmm. And where is the overall, tech ecosystem in India? Where is that going? There have been so many, kind of IPOs. I think I'm getting IPO notification almost. It's almost every day
For each
IPO
and every
notification
loan,
is there, right?
yeah, for each and every company, probably you aspire to head
Yeah.
as a tech guy or a product guy that is entering into IPO.
Hmm.
Uh, Again, RBI and SEBI are doing good job there. What has happened is most of these IPOs have been used as a exit strategy for the initial promoters.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
they have started putting certain limitations on it. So thanks to them that they are vigilant on these aspects, and now there is a lock-in period for it.
Yeah, they were just using it as a IPO was
Yeah,
more of a dump yard.
more of a dump yard. But
But there are
it is
certain
it
companies like Zomato, which actually did very well from when it listed to where it is right now. They're at a valuation of roughly $35 billion. It's the only, I think, kind of a startup that has been there in the public market. Maybe Flipkart, if they go public, they will be there as well. But yeah.
I think for Flipkart, going public at a 1400 CR of net loss, I don't think that is
Hmm.
very near in future.
Yeah.
There is still a long road ahead for them.
Hmm. You're right.
I think the ICDR regulations which changed after 2018, that also augmented these IPO listing for these digital companies. Otherwise, the initial ICDR regulations were very asset heavy, profit heavy, year on year for 3 years. Then only you can go public.
Yes,
So I
yes,
think
yes.
those tweaking of not tweaking per se, but those amendments of the regulation also enable
Hmm.
these startup ecosystem to raise more capital from the market, which is, I think, good for the startup ecosystem. But
Right.
at the same time, uh, being used as dump yard, which you quoted, that is something which is a bit risky.
No, see, India is also aspiring to become a manufacturer hub, right? Similar to where China is. So India is basically looked upon as a back office for the entire world, right? And that's what it is right now as well. Now some good startups have started coming out, but if you look at it from the innovation lens, not much of it is actually happening here,
True.
right? And for India to go to maybe 10 trillion dollars of GDP, I think it needs to strengthen its overall, manufacturing, uh, what do you call it, manufacturing capacity as well. And not much is happening on that.
we definitely need to go back to the asset-heavy industrialization.
Yeah,
If we compare China and India, China, 19 trillion manufacturing economy, their net output in October was close to 4.9%, and their retail output was close to 2.9%, which is way lesser than what they actually aim
correct.
for. So India is at a very right and sweet spot to gain momentum on the manufacturing sector. So I think that the change is definitely going to happen.
Right, but the startups are not coming in that specific domain.
the I think
Not much, I
the
would say.
momentum shift that has to happen is, look, uh, we have been primarily a consumer tech per se.
Yes,
We are not
yes,
the producer of the technology.
yes.
Some even in the wave of AI, I think Kritrim tried. Servan is one of the AI which is probably due in Feb.
Hmm.
These are some of the proprietary models being developed in India. But beyond that, for AI also, you don't see too much intellectual properties
Right,
coming
right,
out of
not at
Indian
all.
ecosystem. So I think we have to literally translate from this consumer tech and solving convenience problem to become intellectual property driven
Right,
entity, so that it starts becoming a USP. And once we have plethora of intellectual property, then creating value on top of it altogether is a different problem. In fact,
right.
this is what happened in initial days in the states also. When pre 2008 era, if you see most of the uh, compute optimization, the research work, most of the innovations, it came from states because um, it again boils down to the section 174, where all these income of the people, the cost which companies used to incur was net deductible from the net income.
Hmm.
Therefore, companies had leverage to translate that into an capex and let it be invested into these R&Ds.
Right, right.
So those are some of the facets, I think, where we still need to do better to provide more
Hmm.
capital for R&D, boost R&D better, create more intellectual properties. I think then only we'll be able to become that
Right.
top one or top two
Delivery is
economy.
also doing a lot of kind of process automation, their warehouse automation, right? I'm sure there must be a lot of robotics, etc., in place as well. So, is this something which is being built in house, or is it something that is kind of procured or you're getting it done from elsewhere?
So, in terms of automation, the warehouse processing center, uh, we have shorters.
Hmm.
That is something which we purchase.
Hmm.
And then there are automatic ASRS, which is automatic system retrieval and storage. That is also something which there is a team which is trying to design those
Okay.
robotics. Drone delivery is something which our teams are building. So that's a very interesting space, to be very honest.
And how far are we? So I are we from how far are we from drone delivery? Have been hearing about drone delivery for a very long time. That shipment will be dropped on your rooftop, etc., etc. But nothing has actually happened in that space. In fact, there is no solid player in that space either.
So the geospatial constraints are the
Hmm.
primary driving factor there. India is a very unique geography.
Right.
We literally cannot plot India in a 2D coordinate because of
Hmm.
different nooks and corners having different topology.
Right.
So that's the primary constraint there. It may not be widespread, but in selective areas, POCs and testing is already happening. I think from the metro cities, the very well organized townships, for example, like
Hmm.
Chandigarh, which is very well structured. I think these are the places where we can do drone delivery with
Right.
high precision and lesser risk.
Hmm. Right. But how do you, kind of do a delivery? Let's say if people are living in condos, right? So, how do you ship in a condo through a drone? Or there has to be a common pickup point of sorts.
So that is where we have to be very selective
Yeah.
about the
Where it can
problem
work.
which we want to solve
Right.
through drone.
Maybe it will just probably solve for 10% of the
Yeah,
entire user, not for
yeah,
everyone.
not for everyone.
Yeah. Right. I also saw, that you recently did your MBA as well, couple of years back.
Yeah.
Why MBA? Engineers are
First,
typically, quite, what do you call it, quite against this MBA thing.
I'm not against any education. Wherever there is a learning opportunity, go grab it. And that is the way I try
Right.
to grasp as much
So you did a
information.
full-time MBA or
This is an executive MBA. The
executive
course
MBA?
content,
Got it.
the beauty of FMS Delhi is the course content of executive MBA and full-time MBA is
Same.
identical.
Hmm.
The pedagogy is same. The intensity is same. Professors are same. So it does not matter for them whether you are a corporate employee of 10 years of experience or 20 years of experience.
Hmm.
You still have to go through the same rigorousness. And the primary reason to do the MBA was because I was already at the peak of probably the tech uh, career per se, where I was entering into
Yeah.
uh, executive layer of the
Hmm.
organizations, and that is where I thought that this is the right time to do it. And
But do
I'm
you
glad.
think, see, there are typically two reasons. After a certain level, people do it for two reasons. One, that is something they always wanted to do, right? Maybe it was their inner child. Just to fulfill the dream of your inner child, you do it. That is one. Second, you do it, because it really impacts your career. And I might be wrong, but I very strongly feel that the place where you were, I don't think MBA would have impacted your career much.
The inner child theory is true. I wanted to do it right after my graduation, but
Mhm.
then the software engineering side started sounding really intriguing and exciting, and that is where I invested majority of the time. Uh, it is, I would not say that it has. The aim was to add significant uplift into the
Yeah.
career, and therefore I do a finance and
It was
marketing
just something
MBA.
you wanted to do for a very long time. So,
Very long time, and the other factor was that I wanted to get back into the habit of reading again,
okay.
and that is what transpired after this 2 years
Mhm.
of MBA. One of the worst thing which we engineers end up doing is we stop reading, to be very
Yeah.
candid.
But
And
quite an expensive way to, getting back to reading.
no, FMS MBA is not expensive.
Oh, right.
FMS,
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah.
time wise, yes, but
Ha.
it's not expensive, and the kind of cohort you
Hmm.
meet and the kind of professors who provide all the insights and multi-dimensional aspects. I think if you are in Delhi NCR,
Hmm.
you should definitely go for FMS Delhi
Okay.
MBA for 2 year
So
executive
you strongly
organization.
recommend it
I
to.
strongly recommend.
Okay. Hmm.
At least for me, it was a total mind shift change. The lens which I use to look at the problem, I have a computer science background with experience of designing and scaling both team, product, and
Yeah.
technology. Overlap with finance and marketing majority. Uh, that puts me in a very sweet spot to take a multi-dimensional decision and understand multiple facets of the problem
Hmm.
which comes on my plate, and probably uh, not probably, that certainly helps me to identify the problem which my leaders or CXO layer is thinking or trying to communicate, and that then helps me to translate that information into right set of goals and visions to the technology, and that has been a
Hmm.
game changer in terms of the thought process altogether.
Mm-hmm. Okay. As a VP, what are your day-to-day battles, which is not visible from outside, but you are fighting internally?
Uh, in a large scale organization, first and primary battle is definitely to move your team in
Hmm.
cohesive and right direction,
Yeah.
and that helped me realize, in fact, not only in this role, in the previous leadership role at Tokopedia as well, that people problem are way complexer than the tech problem, because there are certain limited ways to solve tech problem, but people
Right.
problem is very contextual and subjective. So that is one definite battle, because when you are leading a team of 130 plus engineers, each
Do
and
you
everyone will
you do
come with
one on
different
one with
nuances.
everyone?
No, so I have a different strategy.
Okay.
I'll come to that. I do not do one-on-one with each and everyone. So that is first part. The second battle is I'm very clinical about the cost that I incur in my infra. Product design, scale, behavior, experiences. There are team members, leaders in my team who are able to take care of it. But then that is one facet which I definitely keep a very keen eye on. And then the second part is eventually what is futuristic and how that translates into the current roadmap. So these are the three battles which I try to fight daily. I'd not say fight, but I enjoy it. Uh, Now, coming to the question of one-on-one and skip levels, I follow a very fixed uh, pattern, which is something called Hershey-Blanchard strategy, where there is an ability and motivation to remain fixed. When I'm working with a set of team members, you are with certain set of one-on-ones and very objective OKRs, you are able to identify who is your high potential, high performer. So generally, you don't need to do a very regular one-on-one with them. You just give them certain goals. They'll be able to deliver it. In fact, they are the ones who will raise hand and raise bar for
Right.
the organization also.
And you just want to make them feel seen. So
Yeah, make
you are
them.
in touch, not too much, not too
Yeah,
less.
and these kind of people do not even require too much
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They
interaction.
are
They
on their own.
understand their
They are
job.
on their own.
They have all hands on deck. They know
Yeah.
how to run the team. They know how to collaborate with other stakeholders,
Right.
on and so forth. The challenge is the diagonally opposite corner, which is on the low motivation and low ability bucket. So there, depending on the context and situation and feedbacks, I definitely do skip level. But again, at skip level, uh, it's a communication exchange.
Who are your skip levels?
So my skip level would be CTO, but
No, no. Yeah, below you.
below me, these would be anyone below the senior director and directors.
Okay.
So the escape level conversations is a two-way handshake. If in one or two escape level conversation, I'm not getting a sense that person is bringing right set of information or ideas to the table, rather than only discussing about some peripheral problems which are like he said so, she said so. I generally then curtail those kind of escape levels. But it becomes more interesting when these kind of engineering team members bring more ideas that connects me back to the ground, and it helps in shaping the tech culture also, that why certain dissociation is there between the information at top
Yeah.
layer and at the bottom layer. So it acts as a circular feedback also. So
Hmm.
that's the approach which I take. It is I always prefer a documented one-on-one rather than simply
A casual conversation.
casual conversation, because it's 30 minutes or 1 hour of my time also, and that engineer's
Yes.
time also, and for that organization that's a cost also, right?
Hmm.
So we have to drive an outcome out of it so that organization moves in a
Right.
better pace and better. So I keep it very well structured so that it is transparent first thing, and both are aware
Plus, I
that
think
what needs to
it
be
has
done.
to be actionable as well.
Correct. So that is why
Right.
it has to be documented so that it is
Hmm.
transparent, and what has to be done next is also transparent, so
Right.
that when we catch up next time, we are able to do a retrospective on previous actionables and then drive the future course of decision.
Right. When you have to fire someone, when do you know it?
I have certain basic principles. First, I don't entertain any posh cases. If there is a case that's without discussion, without negotiation, that I cannot compromise on that. Second one is on the ethics. You should the person should be 100% perfect in terms of ethics. I have zero tolerance policy towards these two things. Now the third part is predominantly based on certain performances or
Yeah.
other aspects of
That is
the way.
negotiable. That is something that can be.
Not negotiable until certain time.
Yes, yes, of
Right?
course.
So,
Yeah.
again, this documented structure helps me if that is happening with my DR, or the documented structure is a guide for each and every DR to connect with their respective N-1, so that the information is transparent everywhere. So If that's the case and there is a feedback that some performance is not okay, we again give a very task oriented approach
Right.
and goals to that particular engineer or employee, and then we keep on measuring it, and from there the future journey
Yes.
translates.
My last question: how many hours are you working in a week?
I don't count by hours per se, and that has been ever since. I've never
Yeah.
counted my approach
So
by
still,
hours.
if you have to give a tentative,
I can't, to be very honest,
hmm,
because for me, the brain is functioning 24 cross 7. I'm not the person who is able to
dissociate work and life.
dissociate from my work and able to rest and
Hmm.
enjoy. So the problems keep on resonating and reverberating in mind.
Hmm.
At the same time, there is a very fair balance of where I have to go deeper versus where I have to remain horizontal.
Right.
So wherever I am deeper, generally the teams are also on edge because the questions are coming from left, right, center, and things have to go
Hmm.
right on time. Wherever I'm having an horizontal perspective, there it's a signal also that the next leadership is already prepared and they are leading those charters.
Right.
So overall, in both the depth arena and the horizontal arena, it's the total impact that uh, comes as an outcome for the product and business is what
Hmm.
matters more to me.
So when you decided to become a manager, right? So why manager? Why not taking up the IC path?
It happened more inherently rather than doing it by choice.
Hmm.
Uh, any day, if there is a scope to pick between IC and manager, probably I'll pick an IC role because that is where you have more control.
Hmm.
But then you have to start wearing the organizational lens also and the corporate lens also to understand where the impact is high. Uh, Getting things done by someone else is way harder and much more energy consuming than getting things
That is true.
done
Yeah.
by yourself. So this is one of the very hands-on learning which I was taught by my
Hmm.
mentors in very early days, and that is where I started realizing the potential of using the team leverage rather than trying to solve each and every
Hmm.
problem on yourself. So that's the first aspect, and if I double click on that context, there are different hierarchies, different set of, some organizations follow a 2D structure, some follow matrix structure. There is a reason why these roles and structure exist.
Yeah.
If I have to suggest someone to choose a path and when to do that, for initial 5 to 8 years of your career, the simple expectation is just get your job done.
Yeah.
Whatever task has been allocated, it is paramount to do that. And
Hmm.
if you are doing anything beyond that, that is where the engineer starts surfacing up in the organization
Yeah.
and looks ready for the next role.
Hmm.
The second aspect for choosing these tracks is, in any organization predominantly which is a tech driven or product driven, there will always be cracks and some tech problems falling here and there which no one is
Correct.
picking up. Pick those problems and solve it.
Hmm.
That is where the organization definitely starts seeing you that this is the guy, someone who raises hand, solves something which no one is looking
I
at,
think to be
and
seen, you
starts
need to look
favoring.
different. You need to
Yeah,
do something,
definitely,
that nobody else is
definitely,
doing.
definitely.
Yeah.
So this conflict of IC versus managerial role starts when you are in a senior software engineer role and entering
Right.
into the next set of roles and
Yeah.
responsibilities. That is where my first recommendation would be to analyze your own personality. If it does not comes naturally, please don't do it,
Hmm.
because uh, leadership roles require significant amount of consistency, authenticity, and being yourself.
Hmm.
There will be 20 different videos, 30 different books to probably give information to become leader, but then if that is the source of information because of which you are becoming a leader, that itself is a
But see,
self-capping
I think the
capability.
problem is also, there is a lot of unsaid pressure in India, and like India, a lot of all South Asian countries as well, where there is a certain societal lens associated to it as well, right? The way people look at as a on a director or a manager or on a VP, you don't look at from the same lens at SD3, SD4, architect, and principal. Maybe it has something to do with the word manager, right? Because when you say that you are managing someone, it means that you have actually grown, you have arrived, versus, when you're just doing your own work, that means you still need to be told.
Intrinsic motivation and inherent capabilities are much more important
Hmm.
rather than defining your own career by lens which someone else is looking at you. Uh, that is the best way to fail as well, because
Right.
now what that person is trying to do is trying to become something with to probably please someone who is not himself.
Hmm.
I think we should never do that. I never recommend these to my team
Right.
members. I never guide them in this direction that this is what people are looking at you. It is always important to realize your own
Hmm.
personality first and your instincts first.
Right.
If each and every day the engineer or the product manager is not solving a better problem and creating a competitive mindset within himself or herself, the third person lens is never going to
Obviously.
create
Right. Makes
a
sense.
better person.
Hmm. What about, there are a lot of people who are stuck at middle management for a very long time, versus people with similar experience who are able to climb and crack the overall growth ladder very easily. What differentiates them?
That's a very interesting and intriguing question. When people are in middle management, there are two set of employees who are there. One is that they have grown in the same organization for a
Hmm.
very long time and now they are stuck, versus someone has entered into an organization and is now stuck.
Right.
Let me address the first one first and then I'll take the latter one. When these kind of engineering leaders are stuck, they have to understand that are they just waiting for problem statements to be thrown on their plate to be solved, versus they having the knowledge of the overall organization for such a long tenure
Hmm.
and picking problems from multiple dimensions and shaping a solution around it. So that's the first problem. Second thing is, are this set of leaders accepting the feedback and acting on it or not?
Hmm.
In leadership role, it is important to work on feedbacks. In fact, it is important to work on each and every role demands working on feedback,
Yes.
because
Yes.
everyone is an evolution of feedbacks around them
Obviously.
and
Right.
it is a continuous process. The third aspect is whenever certain problems are handed over, again it is important to get it done first. The
Hmm.
execution strategy has to be very clinical,
Right.
and each and every time if the person is coming up with five different excuses and reasons because uh, other priorities were there, other issues were there, I think in one or two conversations that is okay, but if that becomes a norm, that is where
Hmm.
the leaders also stop investing
And
significant
you end
amount
up
of
losing
time in.
trust as well,
Yeah.
right?
So
You need to work with people who are dependable.
so this is the first classification of people who are stuck at the middle
Hmm.
management role. The second set of classification is someone who has entered into new org, spent relatively 2 to 3 years only, and now stuck. There, the person has to look at the last 2 to 3 years of deliverables as well, and then retrospect that whether these deliverables were important, am I solving the right problem for the organization or not, or am I part of right team also, and have that very candid discussion, because someone has entered into a middle management, there would be a plethora of experience that the person is carrying behind
Right.
him. So that open discussion is very much important with the
Hmm.
leadership. The and now the common part which each of these people should do is always try to solve the problem which your leader is trying to solve.
Yes.
What that
Make their life
and
easier.
it's not about making their life easier.
Hmm.
It is about creating multiple paces in the organization.
Yeah, that is also right.
When the subordinate is solving the problem of the leader which is on the leader's plate, now leaders' time is relatively free, and leader can focus on different set of
Yes, that
stakeholder
is
management,
correct.
collaboration, and try to think futuristic.
Yeah.
And so this is one pace which I have created for future. Now, whatever are the problems which the leader is solving, that itself would be inherently 2 week, 3 week futuristic. So I have created a second pace in the organization, which is 3 week in advance. And definitely the BAU stuff and sprint is already
Yes.
happening. So, and this is something which I learned from my public policy course from Professor Raghav Krishna in the Vision India, Vivekananda India Foundation. This was his precise statement, and though this was more for the public policy and bureaucratic structure, that uh, always solve the problem of the leader with having a positive intent, because it has a
Yes.
lot of negative nuances also, that you are just trying to increase your face time to showcase that you have a good rapport, so on and so forth.
It's more about, be honest,
Yeah.
right? Whatever you are doing, do it honestly. And yeah, I think people don't understand the impact of it, and the kind of impact, the kind of value it adds. But yeah, it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
I think these are some of the fundamentals which I aspire for in my team members. I guide them also
Yes.
towards these directions, and I enjoy building these sustainable and scalable teams through these some of the paradigms which we discussed.
Awesome. Perfect.